Do you want me to like compile similar cases together? And I was like, yeah, go on then. We'll see how it goes. And if this episode gets lots of views, we'll do more like this. Honestly, it sounds kind of interesting to me. So I hope so. Let's jump in the format of the show. If you have never read this before, we're going to explore it together, dear writer. Dear audience. Dear writer, what am I talking about? Let's go. When I first started writing for Simon, it was exclusively over on Decoding the Unknown. Was that really? Wow, I didn't know that, Kevin. I mean, I guess I did, but I didn't remember it. My first script was Pink Floyd and the Publius Enigma, a mystery that was near and dear to my heart, and Simon enjoyed it despite his objectively incorrect opinion that Pink Floyd is garbage. Nah, Pink Floyd's not very... I don't think I ever said they're garbage. I just don't think they're very good. Since then, Simon revealed he was a big fan of internet mysteries and requested I write more of them. So I did. I wrote about every single internet mystery I could find that was long enough and interesting enough to carry a full episode. And honestly, a couple that weren't. Sorry about that. It's like, Kevin, new script. Lots of filler, Kevin. It's like, Simon, because the mystery was about 3 lines.
That's what you are.
But in searching for, and subsequently researching all of those mysteries, I had to travel to a lot of dark corners of the internet, be it on the clear web or the dark web. Ooh, Kevin went on the dark web! This should come as a surprise to roughly 0% of our listeners, but it turns out there are much more nefarious things lurking across the internet than cute little mysteries about key lime pie or bootleg Chinese princess wands. Hell, one of my first scripts on this channel was about the internet's first serial killer, and the internet often plays a role in modern true crime stories. Yeah, I don't know a single time I've done an episode set in, say, the 21st century where the internet hasn't really played a role. Of course, not all of those stories are long enough for their own episodes, no matter how much I pad out the script with rambling introductions. To that end, I don't have a single story for you today. Instead, I'll be taking you through an anthology of horror and death where the key moments were broadcast online for the world to see. Oh my god, okay, here we go. It's like Decoding the Unknown, except it's really dark and horrible. Perfect World Void. Released in China in 2005, then North America and Europe in 2008, Perfect World was a fairly typical MMORPG. Massively multiplayer online role-playing game, right? I don't think I've played these, but like World of Warcraft famously, right? The game was based on Chinese mythology, causing it to be more popular in China than in the Western world, where games like World of Warcraft reigned supreme. It had a reasonable size user base, and the game is still up and running. This is the best estimates, but the current player base is only around 40,000. Well, it's a very old game, like 2008? That's old for a game, right? What games are still being played? I guess World of Warcraft. When was that made? However, like any game that has been running for that long, changes have to be made. New content is introduced, items are rebalanced, level caps are raised, and so on. I have no idea what any of that means, other than new content being introduced. Items are rebalanced, oh, they are they, Kevin? Excellent. Good to know that those items are being rebalanced. Online games with a frequent update schedule are generally seen as a good thing. It means that the developers are actively trying to create the best experience for their players as possible, but sometimes players don't like the changes being made. If there's enough public outcry, the developers may revert certain changes, but usually things just continue to press onward. Or in the case of Blizzard, they just release World of Warcraft Classic and let players start over from scratch with the original game. That's obviously an outlier. World of Warcraft Classic. I'm not even entirely sure what World of Warcraft is. It just seemed a bit too fantasy. In the case of Perfect World, there was a vocal minority of players who didn't enjoy the direction the game was going in. They weren't large enough to cause real change in the game, so instead they broke off and created their own server called Perfect World Void, balancing the game to their preferred specifications. The creators of Perfect World Void also set up a Discord server where the community could converse with one another and make plans to raid together and whatnot. What fun. It's a small but active community, with one community member in particular standing out to most players. His name was Menhaz, and he was chronically online. Other members of the Perfect World Void server said that he'd been playing the game when they all went to sleep, and when they woke up, he was still there. He was also a notorious troll. The Discord server was full of dark humor, questionable takes, the sort of stuff you'd expect. A bunch of PGDs. I'm like, wow, Discord server full of dark humor, questionable takes? What? Such a thing would exist. But even in a server full of fellow woods, Menhaz was seen as consistently taking things too far. He made repeated homophobic and racist remarks, particularly against Muslims. He had been raised in a Muslim household, but he would later become an atheist and spend his time constantly bashing the religion. religion. Can you be racist against your own? I guess you can, right? Yeah, of course you can. Don't know why I had to question that for a second. But I guess you can be racist against yourself. This inappropriate behavior resulted in Menhaz being banned from the server multiple times, though he was always eventually allowed back in. Despite being a massive edgelord, he was generally seen as a nice guy who made people laugh. Or maybe they only let him back in because his in-game character was an elf cleric, and it's really just that difficult to find a good healer. Again, Kevin. Great. He's an elf cleric, is he? Good. They do healing, do they? Good. You have no idea what's going on. But who exactly was Menhaz? And why was he seemingly always online instead of going to school or work? Maybe he was just rich. Maybe he's just like, he's just like a family money billionaire. He's just like, what did he choose to do with his life? Play, what the fuck was this game called? Perfect World Void. Menhaz Zaman was the son of Moinura Zaman and Momotaz Begum. The couple were born in Bangladesh and their marriage was arranged by their parents. However, they wanted a better life for themselves and their future children. Average income and the quality of life has improved dramatically in Bangladesh over the past 20 years or so, but not so much in the 1980s and 90s. Monoraz moved to Canada first, earning enough money as a cab driver to bring Momotaz to Canada as well, which is good because marrying someone and moving to a different country and never seeing them again would be a bit weird. Monoraz was a hard and respected worker, earning multiple awards at the cab company where he worked. He even earned enough money not just to buy a house for the family, but to buy 2 more houses to use as rental properties. Oh my god, is taking taxis really expensive in Canada or something? God damn. Because once upon a time, houses were something people could actually afford to purchase. Not that I'm bitter or anything. In 1996, the couple had their first child, Menhaz. A couple of years later, they had a daughter, Malaysia. In order to help raise the kids, they decided to move Momotaz's mother, Firoza Begum, to Canada to live with them as well. Monoraz and Momotaz wanted the best for their kids, which started with a good education, would lead to a good job, and a good job would lead to a good and prosperous life. Like many South Asian parents, they believed, there were only 2 acceptable career paths for their children, doctor or lawyer. Doctor or lawyer? Doctor or engineer! Oh, okay, engineer. I didn't know that. Okay. This meant that Menhaz and Malessa had to study hard so they could get into good schools and earn jobs in those professions. Both of them did well in school, but Menhaz was considered the golden child. Everyone knew that he was Momotaz's favorite of the 2, and some of her behavior could be seen as overly attentive. For example, if she and Monoraz were at a dinner party with friends or something, and Momotaz believed that Menhaz was home and might possibly be hungry, she would leave to go and make food. But while that sounds like he was spoiled, he was also under an immense amount of pressure, especially as the firstborn child. I feel like you can't have favourites with your children. Like, regular joke. But it's just a joke. Otherwise, like, yeah, I know it's a funny joke, but you gotta stop because they're gonna understand soon, and then they'll actually take it seriously because they're children. Like, okay. Monoraz wanted Menhaz to be an engineer, so that's the way it was going to be. He did well in school and always paid attention, but classmates also felt that he wasn't really interested in being there or learning. To be fair, this was high school. I'm pretty sure most high school kids aren't that happy about going to school or learning, though in my opinion, may be tainted by the American education system. Yeah, I don't know, I like learning shit. I like learning shit today, I like learning shit at school. I didn't like certain lessons because I'm like, this is boring. I don't like learning this shit. But generally, I'm quite into learning shit. Anyway, as much as Menhaz was the family's golden child, Malessa was their rebel. Whereas Menhaz was shy, quiet, and socially awkward with no friends, Malessa loved to go out with friends and drink, smoke weed, and secretly date boys. Oh my! She still did well in her classes, and it was even her dream to be a neurosurgeon, whereas being an engineer was just their father's dream for Menhaz. It's like, you want to be a neurosurgeon? Try and impress me more. Come on, make an effort. Neurosurgeon. What a joke. However, it's literally brain surgery. However, this behavior caused Malessa and Monoraz to frequently butt heads. Monoraz was an extremely traditional and conservative Bangladeshi immigrant, but Malessa hadn't grown up in a Muslim country. She just wanted to live the life of a normal Western teenager. The two would argue so loudly that neighbors would call the police, and it's even reported that Monoraz would hit his daughter for being disobedient. If she stayed out past curfew, he would lock the doors so that she had to sleep outside as punishment. That's properly psycho, my dude. You're the one who chose to move to Canada. It's not like there was some terrible thing, as far as I'm aware. You moved there for money. You just moved there for a better life for your family. And then they're having this better life, and you're being a piece of shit about it. You made that decision, my dude. If you want them to have a Canadian life, then they're gonna have a Canadian life. What the fuck? Get your shit together. idiot. When that happens, Momentaz would usually unlock the back door to the basement and put a pillow and blanket for Melissa, so at least she could be somewhere safe, but that's obviously still not a great situation. And while all that was going on, Menaz would be online playing Perfect World Void. His headphones allowed him to drown out the sound of his father and sister arguing, and online, he wasn't some shy kid stuttering and looking down at his feet. He was a confident guy who could spend hours at a time socializing with his online friends, at least when he wasn't getting himself banned from the server being such a cringy edgelord. Seriously, when you're about to go on a tirade that begins with, "I'm not being racist, but," it's probably a time for you to just shut your fucking mouth. It's probably not great to change your username to Allah and tell everyone Islam is cancer to the current world, bro, especially since Menaz went to mosque every Friday with his father, smiling politely at the people he referred to privately as Muslim dogs. Classy guy. Cringy edgelord here right there. Anyway, after studying hard throughout high school, all of his hard work was finally going to be rewarded. He was accepted to York University to study mechanical engineering on a full scholarship, or at least, that's what he told everyone. York is one of Canada's most selective schools when it comes to graduate programs, but for undergrads, their acceptance rate is about 89%. Despite this, Menaz failed to get into school there. Maybe their acceptance rate was lower in 2015, but being rejected from York is likely a huge blow to his self-esteem and confidence. Instead of going to York like he claimed, he enrolled in classes at Seneca Community College. Wait, so acceptance rate is 89%, so 89% of people who apply get in? Dude, that's going to be pretty bad for your ego. Especially your dad wants you to be some like flashy engineer or some shit. I didn't get into my backup school. But things didn't go well for Menaz in college. He skipped class frequently and struggled to keep up as a result, ultimately failing his classes. The next semester, he went back to repeat those classes, but it went even worse. Menaz almost never showed up to his classes and eventually dropped out entirely. He fell into deep depression, embraced atheism, and spent all his time playing Perfect World Void and chatting with his friends on Discord. Now you might be wondering how his family reacted to their son dropping out of school. I'm going to guess they didn't react because he probably just didn't tell them. He was the firstborn, their golden child, and Monaras was insistent on him becoming an engineer. The news that Menaz wasn't able to cut it in college, especially community college, would have devastated his family, so he didn't tell them. Like, Mum and Dad, I dropped out of college. They're like, "Oh no, you dropped out of York." But no, I dropped out of community college, right? Double whammy! After all, they'd already been lying about going to York instead of Seneca, so why not just continue lying? For the next 3 years, Menaz, I kind of blame the parents for this one, because it's like, yo, how about you don't have such crazy expectations? Like, you know, how about, at this age, it's kind of the parents' fault. For the next 3 years, Menaz would leave his house 4 mornings a week to take the bus headed for York. However, as he told one of his friends on Discord, the same bus stopped at the mall before going to the university. Menaz would spend 4 days a week walking around the mall, finding a corner of the food court to game on his laptop, and going to the gym. His family didn't suspect a thing. Momentaz would brag to his friends about Menaz constantly. They would all talk about how school was going when they had dinner together as a family, and there were even conversations about Menaz continuing at York to get a master's degree in mechanical engineering. It's great. Meanwhile, he's just going and he's like gaming, he's getting fucking ripped at the gym, just leading a life of leisure. Though their parents and grandmother had no idea everything Menaz said about school was a lie, it's possible that Melissa could have been able to figure out that her brother was completely full of shit. After all, she was no stranger to parental disobedience, which likely made her the most qualified to pick up on Menaz's deception. But she wasn't there. She had spent her whole life butting heads with her father and finally had had enough. Melissa moved out of the house and in with her boyfriend. So for nearly 3 years, there was nobody in the house that would have recognized the lies for what they were. Eventually, Melissa and their father made amends and she moved back into the family home. She had also been accepted to York University, for real this time, unlike her brother, and she was going to start studying to be a neurosurgeon the next fall. However, from the moment Menaz begun his prolonged lie, he knew it was going to have an expiration date. College is only 4 years, and he was now supposed to be in his final semester. He told his parents his graduation ceremony would be on Friday the 28th of July 2019, which gave him a deadline. Whatever was going to happen, it needed to happen before then. Unfortunately, none of his parents' friends had a child that was also graduating from York that year. If they did, they would have found out that the ceremony was actually 3 weeks earlier, on July 7th, and Menaz would have been caught in his lie. Why didn't you find out the actual date? It's 2019, just look it up online. And then, when that day comes around, just pretend to be, like, dreadfully sick. You're an adult, you can pull it off. And then let it go by, print out a diploma, and be like, yay, Mum and Dad, look, I'm an engineer! They'd figure out the next lie. In the months leading up to his supposed graduation, and as his time in the perfect world void, Discord became much darker than it had been. It had always been an edgy place where edge was something men had fully embraced, but his behavior was even darker than usual. He changed his Discord name to things like Subhuman and Don't Deserve Life, and he frequently talked about killing himself. He was always framing it in such a way that it would seem like a joke. Nobody was sure whether or not they were supposed to take him seriously, but since he'd always run his mouth like an idiot, they assumed it was all intended as a joke. Yeah, it's like the boy who cried egg, isn't it? But things got even darker in March. He was talking with one of his friends in the server and said that he was thinking about leaving the game. When his friend asked what server he was going to move to, instead, Menez replied, "Gonna kill my parents and go to jail." Yo. Oh my god. Okay, dude, I forgot this was a casual criminalist. Oh. Under normal circumstances, this would be a giant red flag, but it was mostly seen as business as usual on the server. Yeah, this is the sort of thing that you could type as like as a teenage edgelord, and be like, yeah, no, just type shit. I don't think it would mean. It was more tasteless than the normal jokes being made, but his friend didn't take this comment seriously. This continued until July, when Menez finally ran out of time. At around 3 p.m. on July the 27th, the day before his supposed graduation, Menez made his way to the master bedroom of the family house. As part of their daily routine, Momotaz and Feroza would always take an afternoon nap together. Menez struck his mother in the head with a crowbar before slitting her throat. About an hour later, he did the same to his grandmother. Then he took to Discord. Oh, shit. This got intense. Don't smother your children. Look, it's obviously his fault. He murdered his parents, and his grandmother, and I'm assuming his dad at some point later. But like, don't smother your children. Don't make them crazy. The exact timeline of the messages isn't totally clear. Everybody else involved saved screenshots of his post to the server and their private conversations with Menez, but they all lived in different time zones, so the timestamps in these images are completely useless. As such, it's unclear whether his first post on Discord was between the two murders or after the second. Either way, he posted a picture of a dead woman's body with the message, "This is my mum." He then posted a second picture claiming that it was his grandmother. Nobody was really sure what to do about this. Menez was their friend, and despite all of his trolling and inappropriate comments, they genuinely thought he was a very nice and caring person. Except when it came to Muslims. Yeah, wait, did he seem like a complete racist? But bigoted comments aside, he was a fun guy that was always there for them. Was their friend really some sort of psychopathic murderer? Almost everyone's first instinct was that this was some sort of grotesque troll. Either the images were faked or it just pulled them off some random gore or shock website. But not everybody was so convinced. Referred to only as John, believed that they were real, and he began investigating. A friend of his who studied forensics was able to confirm that the injuries were genuine, not staged, so they set out doing reverse image searches. If they could find the pictures online somewhere, maybe this was just a really shit joke that would get Menez banned from the server again. The problem is, this gore stuff, isn't this usually like on the dark web or something? So that's not going to come up in like a TinEye search or like a reverse Google image search. Unfortunately, the images were nowhere to be found. The only possible conclusion that could be made from this was the pictures were the real deal, and that Menez had been stopped before he killed the rest of his family. And, well, no, or it just came from a part of the non-public web. Like maybe he was part of some gore Discord server. Those images are not going to come up. They're all just like sick sharing images with each other. The obvious problem is that they had no idea who he was. All they had was the name Menez. It wasn't even necessarily his real name. Based on the hours he kept, they believed he was living somewhere in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. That includes parts of Canada, the US, Mexico, a bunch of Caribbean islands, and like half of South America. Though which countries line up with EST depends on whether it's on or off daylight saving times in North America. Yeah, but either way, like 1 hour either side is still going to be like pretty okay. And that's going to increase the search area. The next step was to try and trace Menez's IP. That won't give exact results, but if the person isn't using a VPN, you can usually find their ISP and what city they live in. Sometimes like I'll like do the what is my IP thing, and it'll be like I'm in a town like miles away, like another big town, and I guess they just route internet traffic through there or whatever. But it's like, oh, okay. Even if they got the wrong city, it would be the right geographical area. Yeah, I mean, they always get the country right at least. Based on that, they determined he was in or near Toronto. While all of that was going on, Menez was taking a nap. He woke up to a mountain of Discord messages, most of which he ignored for the time being. However, one user, named Junior, reached out. This was Menez's closest friend on the server. He replied to Junior, "This may upset you, but I did it." He was going to kill his dad and sister next, and then he hopped onto Perfect World Void to play for a bit. This gave the server's game admins the chance to trace his IP more accurately. The new result turned up phone number and street address, which they assumed would be Menaz's landlord. However, upon calling the phone number, they realized that the contact details they found were just the phone number and business address for the ISP. It was another dead end. At around 11:30 p.m., Menaz replied to a message from John. He told John, "I killed Mum and Granny so far, are waiting for my sister in 5 minutes, and then Dad in 1 hour." It had been over 8 hours since he'd committed the first murders, and the entire time Menaz was hanging around the house, napping and playing video games while their dead bodies were upstairs. Just after midnight, he messaged John again, sending 2 pictures. The first was his sister's dead body, and the second was a selfie of him holding the bloody knife that he'd used to murder his family. Once again, he'd struck her with a crowbar before slicing her throat. Whereas the first 2 murders had been easy, he said that Melissa fought back for at least 10 minutes before he overpowered her. Menaz then reiterated that he would be doing the same for his father an hour when he got out from driving his cab. The entire Discord server was in disbelief over the murders. They had failed to stop Menaz thus far, but perhaps they could intervene in time to at least save one person's life. How, dude? This is like TikTok. Members finally got in touch with another user in St. Paul, Minnesota, the state that borders Canada. The member called his local police, who then got in touch with Toronto police to try and track down Menaz. There are different accounts of how they did so, with some saying that the police were able to get his address from Discord, while others claim it was from PayPal. In between the murders, Menaz had offered PayPal money to his friends because he wouldn't need it where he was going. One of these friends jokingly said, "Give me your location if you want to be caught," to which he replied, "Not yet." As for which way the police pinpointed Menaz's location, they never officially stated how they did so. Probably for the best. That kind of stuff is good to keep private. Do you remember a few years ago where the FBI needed access to someone's iPhone after they'd died or something, or to figure out what crimes they were up to? And Apple was like, "No, we don't have the ability to do that." And I was like, if you're Apple, and even if you do, you've got to say you don't, because otherwise people are going to be like, "I don't trust Apple anymore." And even if Apple did give it to them, the FBI incentivized to be like, "No, they cracked it on our own." Realistically, the police are thought more likely to be able to track down a person's location with a PayPal account than a Discord account. Yeah, definitely, because when you sign up and do PayPal, if you want to top it up, you're going to have to enter your bank details, and they're going to have a matching address. Whereas Discord, you could be like, yeah, I live on 123 Fake Street, and Discord's going to be like, "Okay, thanks." But in the end, do you even have to? I don't think I'd give my address to Discord. But in the end, it doesn't matter how authorities found the address because it was too late. About an hour after murdering his sister, Menaz took to the server post, "I've slaughtered my entire family, or will probably spend the rest of my life in jail if I manage to survive. I hope I made you all laugh at one point or another. I hope you remember the good times. I will miss you all." When pressed for answers as to why he did this, Menaz said it was because he didn't want his parents to have to live with the shame of having a son like him. He'd been planning to do this for 3-4 years, ever since beginning his lie, and with his alleged graduation the following day, there was more time to delay. When asked why he killed his entire family instead of just himself, Menaz replied, "I'm a pathetic coward and a subhuman. Since I'm an atheist, I believe there's no afterlife, so I was scared to die. And I wanted them to die, so that they didn't suffer knowing how much of a pathetic subhuman I was. It's all very selfish. I'm just pathetic." The next day, on July the 28th, police officers arrived at the family home in Markham, Ontario, about 18 miles from Toronto. Menaz posted to Discord, "Police are here. Goodbye." He then went to the door to greet the police officers and let them in. When the officers asked what they were going to find inside, he simply told them, "You'll see." Menaz became vocal with his friends about his plan to turn himself in and face the punishment he knew he deserved, and he didn't hesitate in confessing to everything once he was arrested. Though he refused to give any motive or explanation for his actions, the Discord members had saved every message and picture he sent to them to hand over to police. His motive was spelled out clearly in those catalogs. Despite the fact that these messages he sent showed that he had been planning all of this for years, the defense were able to argue that the murder of Momotaz, Menaz's mother and first victim, could have been a more impulsive act rather than premeditated. As a result, he pled guilty to second-degree murder and 3 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 30 years. But so he could be out at 61 after murdering his entire family. It's quite intense, isn't it? Not lie. Little Kitty's final stream. Welcome to China. Story, Simon, so best of luck with all the pronunciations. Oh, I'm just going to guess. Luo Maozi was a popular influencer on Douyin. For those unfamiliar, Douyin is China's answer to TikTok. Wait.